Well, watched Adult Swim like super young because my parents liked Home Movies, the TV show.
Jeez.
I do love that show.
Oh,
Home
it's
Movies
one of
is
my
great.
favorites. But like once
Brendan.
like my parents were into it and they wanted an excuse to watch it, so they're like, I guess you guys can watch it too.
That's so great. That opening scene of that show is like one of my favorite scenes of all time. It's like where Coach McGurk's like showing Brendan all his tattoos or something.
Yes.
And he's just like, is that the Chiquita banana? He's like, you see this here? This is the Chiquita banana. Or something like, you don't want to make the mistakes I did. Or something. Or no, then he's talking about like the cow. He's like, this is a cow from some cheese I
milk.
like. From some milk.
My life is a mess, Brendan. Get out there and play soccer.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. This is episode number 69, and my name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with Randall Nolery
Hey, everybody.
and John Hines.
Hi there.
And we are back to talk about some video games, as always. And that's my usual intro when I have no idea what to say at the beginning. So we're back to talk about some games, as always. But
It's
yeah,
true.
it's my go-to. It's my crutch. But Randall and I have actually, just to kind of warm things up, we haven't sunk too much time into this, but there is a new Battletoads game.
Is.
And it's out on, I think, just on Xbox, if I'm not mistaken, because it's from, like, at least co-developed with Rare. I forget the name of the other developer. But I think we both
Studios?
Yeah, that's right. And, I think we played just both pretty much the first level here.
Yeah.
Like, I almost treated it like a demo, kind of, in my mind. Just like, well, okay, it's there. It's on Game Pass the day it came out. Like, let's just check it out and see what it's all about.
Game Pass definitely gives you that opportunity where you don't feel like you're obligated to sink more time necessarily. You can just kind of taste things and move on if you want to, or
It's given me that opportunity like crazy lately, to
Yep.
be honest. They've been adding all kinds of stuff to Game Pass, like
real.
the day it comes out.
Yeah.
And I'll get to another game later.
Nice.
But yeah, what have you been thinking? I'll let you take the lead on this, Randall.
Sure.
What have you been thinking of Battletoads so far, of the first kind of level or so?
So I will say, like, before it came out, they announced it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, another beat 'em up. And, I have a lot of Battletoads nostalgia growing up. It was one
Same.
of the cartridges I had. You had the great music. It was developed by Rare. It was way too difficult because they basically developed it in a bubble. But those first, like, 2.5 levels sure were fun if you memorized them.
Yeah, that is a great way to put it. Like, that is one of the quintessential memorization games.
It is. But once you memorize it is fun, at least for that.
Oh, yeah.
Before it gets too broken with, like, the turbo tunnel, and then everything after the turbo tunnel is even harder. But,
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you can only memorize so much. Like,
yes.
there was tons of levels.
The first time I ever beat the turbo tunnel, I was just like, oh yeah, like this is going to be like a breeze after this. And now I'm like on an icy platforming stage right after
my
that. It's just
God.
like, forget
It's so
it.
hard.
Forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we do that together, now that I'm thinking about it?
That sounds familiar.
I think we
Although,
did.
man, picturing completing the turbo tunnel co-op is like, I can't actually picture us doing that, but I also can picture us drinking a lot of Balls energy drinks
That's right.
until like 2 a.m. and
As was the
being
custom at
committed
the
to
time.
beating games.
Yes, indeed.
Oh man.
All that to be said, though, nostalgia's there. Pause music is great. Yada, yada. We all know Battletoads. So the new Battletoads just came out. I was excited within reason about that. I wasn't super duper hot on the new graphic style. Like,
Same here.
We'll see. But then I booted it up because, I've also got Game Pass, which is nice. So it didn't cost me anything. And I will say in motion, that visual style works a little bit better, and the neon look is cool within reason. But it's okay. I wasn't blown away by it. The enemies took quite a few hits. I felt like the characters kind
of hits.
Yeah, a lot of hits.
A lot of hits.
The characters kind of talk too much, and I didn't find it as humorous as they thought it was.
It's not charming at all.
Not.
It's like, I practice kissing on my hand.
Yeah,
it's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like they're trying to like be super 90s.
They are. They're trying to do the 90s Tood thing, and I understand that. And it's tough because they don't have ultimately that much reference material to go off of, honestly. Like Battletoads was just like a spin-off or like an unofficial thing that they were trying to do during the Turtles days, right? So like, that's where that all kind of comes from as a basis. Yeah. There's only like a few Battletoads games that ever really came out, at least on consoles. But it's okay. I'll always take another beat 'em up. And we didn't get a chance to sync up on this one yet, but I did play with Tina, and we kind of bounced off like first boss, and we're like, I think we're good.
Yeah, I pretty much had the same experience, although I will say one of the cool things playing single player is like I'm sure you can do this as well on co-op with the extra character, but you can swap between any of the 3 Battletoads at any point in time by pressing either left, down, or right on the D-pad, and you can almost use those to like chain into combos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there is like a pretty cool combo system, and like the combat, like I had the same reluctancies you had going into it, like not super into these graphics, kind of like with Streets of Rage 4, although I would say Streets of Rage 4 hits the mark just a little bit more than this one does.
A bit more.
A lot. I see, for me,
that's not even a comparison. I knew you were going to say that.
For me, the gap is not as far for you, I don't think. I agree that Streets of Rage 4 is like just nails it like 100%.
Yes.
But like this game, I other than like, because for me, a beat 'em up, I am just kind of like I'm skipping the cutscenes if I can, or I'm just breezing through the dialogue. I'm not paying attention, and I do envision playing it with a buddy. Although again, if you said you played it with Tina and you both kind of weren't having a blast, I was kind of hoping that because the enemies I was finding, and you fight this boss on the first stage like 3 fucking times. You keep like chasing him down this red carpet kind of. And like it's kind of like a Bebop ripoff, another just Turtles reference.
Yep.
And you just like it felt like even the regular enemies, but especially this boss, just took forever to wail on.
Yep.
And in my head, I was like, oh well, if more people were playing, it wouldn't be so bad. But you had kind of the same experience though on the like enemy health end.
I did, and then on top of that, not to keep railing on this, but I also felt like the controls were a little unnecessarily complicated. Like, why are we having to like press button combinations to do what should be kind of straightforward built-in moves, like using your tongue to grab a fly, which in the original game and onward is how you get your health back. And they kind of continue that here, and they kind of expand on it where you can use it as kind of a grapple move too to bring.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. That grappling, or you can either pull enemies towards you or pull yourself towards an enemy with your tongue, which is pretty cool.
But why is it where I have to combine left trigger with a face button to do like this? Just seems needlessly complicated.
Yeah, it's like I agree with that because you're using both triggers for like you're using the other one for kind of like a dash and a run button, which is kind of standard. But like it does feel weird for the tongue. Like I would rather just have like give me a button for grabbing health and give me a button for grappling like with my tongue towards enemies or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Like have it be just 2 separate inputs, or at least give me the option to customize it.
Yes.
Which admittedly I did not dive into the menus, but it seemed so like specific. I was like, there's kind of a lot going on here. I'm not gonna customize it. And I kind of overall did have the same, like I don't plan, unless you were like, oh man, let's sync up online, and it doesn't sound like that's where you're at. So I don't think I'm going to be playing more of this one either. But
let me couch this with one more say, just like we did talk about Streets of Rage 4, and it's not really fair to this game that Streets of Rage 4 came out so recently, because as we talked about in a previous episode, I think that's probably the best playing beat 'em up I've ever played. And that's in a similar way, it's bringing back an old franchise to the new, but they didn't overcomplicate the controls, and they like stood true to everything that Streets of Rage was as a franchise and brought it into the present in a way that I don't think Battletoads quite did.
Yeah, and another point too is the original all the Battletoads games are not strictly beat 'em ups. There are just like platforming stages, and it seems like there is some of that stuff in this game too. Like the jet, there seemed like there was kind of like a almost like first person or like over the shoulder perspective, like from behind your character, jet ski type levels or whatever, turbo tunnel. But yeah, overall, nothing that I'm super excited to play more of.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. But moving along from there, we've got a trifecta of games that I guess it's been probably a couple weeks by the time this episode comes out, if not longer. But a trifecta of games that all came out during the last Nintendo Indie World showcase, and they actually were all like showcased during the video, and like they're available later today.
Right.
And we talked about one of them last week, a short hike on the podcast, and we'll get to that one because Randall sunk some time into that later in the podcast, but. Why don't we get into Manifold Garden first, which I know you've been playing at least a little bit of, John. I actually don't know how much you've played.
I played a fair amount. I actually don't know how long the game is. I think the biggest strength of this game is how little it tells you. I know I made this comparison over text to you guys that it reminds me a lot of Antechamber, which was an indie game that came out, God, I have no idea how many years ago. But it was
an oldish game. It was like 2013 because I looked it up when you sent that text and I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. And I think it's like 2013. It was quite a bit older than I expected.
Yeah, and Antechamber is an incredibly obtuse and difficult game that like prides itself in not explaining a single thing to you. The whole point of that game is to figure things out on your own, and it's really discovering like mechanics through how different rooms interact and how you have a gun in that game, but like the gun is like involved in different platforming objectives, and it does different functions on like unlocking doors or creating platforms. But that is a very difficult game, and I love it, but I've never come close to beating it. And Manifold Gardens it reminds me of it in the way that it really doesn't have there is no dialogue. It's all completely silent other than like the background music and noises that happen. And I remember when I first heard about this game, or when it was in development, I honestly didn't think it was a game. I thought it was just kind of a recursive architecture generator.
Yeah, it looks like almost like procedurally generated like animation or something, because I remember seeing some tweets as well and just like, oh man, that looks cool, but I thought it was just like, oh, cool graphics.
Right.
You know,
and like the whole point of this game is that it is like it takes place in a very like either brutalist or prairie style architecture. There's a lot of like very geometric shapes and not tessellations, but like recurring geometric patterns that are infinitely replayable. So the thing this is a non-Euclidean platformer, or non-Euclidean, I don't know, you would call it existence. Like any time that you reach let's say you reach the edge of a platform, if you fall, you will eventually fall back to where you started. So it's an infinite loop in every direction. And all of the architecture is kind of built in a way that it can infinitely loop or completely like regenerate itself, or like no matter how far you travel, you will always end up eventually at the same point. So it's actually a pretty good way of making sure you never really get lost. Right. Because no matter how far in any direction you head, you will always get back to where you started. So it's, or at least a functional equivalent of where you started.
Right.
I was going to say, I was thinking like, how do you make progress then?
Yeah. And so it's a lot of discovering what the like minute changes are in the environment and like figuring out what you exactly need to do to progress. And I did see an interview. I didn't read the article, but I did get from the headline that the creator of this game, like this is very much a puzzle game, but the creator is terrible at puzzle games and wanted to create a puzzle game that he could beat. And so like in that respect, like it is very different from Antechamber, which like prides itself on being difficult and being really hard to figure out and like withholding information. And whereas this one, it's not giving you any information, but like at no point do I feel so frustrated that like I need to look something up or that I feel like I can give up. Like there's always a sense of, okay, if I just explore a little bit more, if I just push a little bit further, I can figure this out.
That's nice.
And the music in it and the scenery in it, like the environments, everything in it is just a joy to be in, like, period. So even when
it's stunning for
like,
sure.
It
when
is.
I'm not trying to like move forward, I can just be like, you know what, if I could just like fuck around for a little bit, I'll probably figure something out or notice something. So it's such a really beautiful game that is very specific to my interests of like brutalist architecture and like minimalist electronic music. So like I'm really enjoying it, and like I'm really happy with the way, I don't know, just existing in that 3D space feels.
Nice.
Is it like first person perspective or?
Yeah, and there's not a jump button. And I guess I didn't even mention this as a core mechanic. The main like traversal mechanic is either moving like around in a 3D space like you typically would in a first person perspective. And then if you approach a wall, if you hit the R button, I believe, you will change the way gravity is oriented, and then you will fall towards whatever wall or surface you are in contact with. So that is another way in that like the world is recursive in every direction.
Whoa.
So there are like points where I'm like, okay, I can see that what I'm assuming is the exit is on the ceiling, like an ocean distance away from me. How can I orient the walls so that I can fall this infinite chasm towards that?
That sounds sweet.
That sounds nuts. It almost sounds like a 3D version of Echo Chrome. Do you guys remember that game on like, I think it was like a PS3 downloadable game, like totally like it wasn't a first person game or anything, but like it was like, I don't know. It just sounds like I guess that's what I meant to say. I guess a first person version instead of a 3D version, but different in the infinite repeating and whatnot. But
it just feels great, and I'm always just curious to see what like the next area will be like, because that really is the strength of it. Is just like going to a new area and seeing like, I don't know, an MC Escher-esque like environment, just like, but one that you can inhabit and like see in a way that shouldn't be possible, but feels. Oh, it just feels great.
Yeah, that hasn't really come up in games as much as you would expect, actually, as a concept. So that's cool that they're exploring it.
I mean, it happens like when you like reach the edge of a map in a game and you just pop up on the other side.
Yeah.
God, I remember reading Lucky Wander Boy, I think. It was a book by D.B. Weiss, who eventually was one of the showrunners for Game of Thrones.
Oh, jeez.
But it was a book that like, really it was a weird book, but like it went into like some of the philosophy, or like it shoehorned philosophy into like a lot of arcade games, like how there was like 6 fractions of a second when like you reach the edge in a Pac-Man like stage and you appear on the other side,
right?
And it's like, where is Pac-Man existing in that brief moment where he's nowhere? And like, this is the less, I don't know, eye-rolly or cringy version of that.
Oh, that's
my first
great.
thought went to Kid Icarus for the whole rap screen thing too.
Oh God, that's another better example.
I don't know about that, but
first Kid Icarus is great.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? I think it's my cartridge doesn't always work when I plug it in, and I think I have like a weird like feel. I just like hold it against that game just because I can't get it to work all the time.
Definitely an older cartridge, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of the ones that doesn't have like the indentations on the top. It's just like the flat NES cartridge.
Yeah. In early release.
But anyways, another game that was announced and released during that Nintendo Indie World Showcase, though I've been playing it on Xbox Game Pass, and again was released day one that it came out. Like it's just, I was like, oh man, Spiritfarer, this game looks really cool, and it's another game from Thunder Lotus Games, which I didn't realize this at first, but they made Jotun and Sundered. They're like these really beautiful hand drawn animation, games, I guess. One of them's like a top-down, like almost like a Shadow of the Colossus style game in the sense that you're just fighting like giant bosses. Right. And then the other one's like more of a Metroidvania style game. And then this one here, Spiritfarer, is a little bit more like a story-driven simulation. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in this game, and like I said, it is story driven, but I've only played about the first hour and a half, maybe 2 hours or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got so much going on. Again, like I mentioned, their previous games all have this beautiful hand-drawn animation, and this is no exception.
Beautiful.
This game is like, it takes it to the next level.
Yeah.
I mean, the animations are so smooth. Like it truly feels like you're watching like a Studio Ghibli film, or like any just like really crisp, like animated film.
We've been so
looks
spoiled
so
with
great.
that lately in the indie
I know.
space. Like seriously, it's awesome.
Like the level of skill is it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like this game caught my eye instantly. I had no idea what it was. Saw the trailer for it and was just like, "Yep, I want that game."
Totally.
And then saw it was on Game Pass, so just fired it up. So,
Awesome.
like I said, I'm about an hour and a half in, and you start off. You play as, I can't actually remember the main character's name, but the purpose of the game, and you find this out right off the bat. You're kind of taking over for this guide that would basically ferry people into the afterlife, and you're meeting people along the way, and you're kind of recruiting them. And I've only met, like, you kind of get one character right off the bat, and then you kind of like go and travel. You get this boat right off the bat. Again, you're ferrying them around, and like on your boat, you can upgrade your boat. So like in the sense, like you can expand it, have more space, and on your boat, you're actually building new things. Like you're gathering resources as you travel around, and it's real. The way you travel is real. I'm getting all over the place here, but like the way you travel around is so cool. It's like you have like this projector in your cabin, it's like a map projector screen.
Okay,
and you like boot that up, and it goes into like this top-down map, like almost like In Other Waters style perspective. Okay. And then you pick a point on the map, and you'll see like, oh, here's some scattered, like you'll see like here's a shipwreck over here, and I can go over to that shipwreck, and you can actually like jump off and this is a 2D side scrolling game, by the way, but you're like, you can jump off your boat like into the water, and as soon as you jump off, the boat will stop once you've set a destination. But if you see this like wreckage, you can break open some crates, gather some resources, which you'll use later on to like, and you can get like mussels and like different fish. You can go fishing off the back of the boat and get fish that you can, so once you gather these resources, like so far I've built like a guest house that somebody can live in, actually multiple people can live in. I've built a kitchen, which you also have to like now gather things and cook them. You have the people.
You're talking my language in this game.
Yeah, I know. Like,
I think this is going to be up both of your alleys. Yeah, because I have 2 people on my boat right now, and they're actually more like animals. They're like anthropomorphic creatures. And you kind of like rescue them, and they're like the first person you rescue is like your best friend, and they're actually some kind of like deer of some kind. And then the second person you rescue is your uncle, who is a frog. And then I'm just about to get the ability that's going to allow me to double jump, so I'll be able to access more areas. But I've like expanded the like breadth of my ship, or like the length of it, I guess. And I also built a field, so now I'm able to like plant seeds and water them and grow stuff. Like it's kind of insane. There's like a lot of shit going on in this game. You also have to like manage like, so like for example, I haven't messed with this with my uncle too much, but my dear friend is I can talk to them at any point, but like, so when they're hungry, they'll tell you like if they want a snack, or if they want a larger meal or a medium-sized meal, or like, and then their thing is like they don't like to eat the same thing twice ever. You can't feed them the same thing twice, and they also don't like fruit either. So like kind of picky. Yeah. And then you can also go up and give them a hug whenever you want, but sometimes, not whenever you want, because they actually can just be like, I'm okay right now.
That's good.
You can't just like force your will on them, which is kind of nice.
Yeah,
but
consent is important.
You do have a pet cat that you can not only pet, but you can hug at any point in time. Like this game is just so freaking cute and adorable, and like you have this like light. It's called the Everlight or Everglow. No, it's Everlight, because I remember I remember thinking of the Foo Fighters song Everlong. But I'm pretty sure it's Everlight. But you get to it basically just transform into anything. Like, so you have your big ship, but you actually will, like, once you get close to an island, like, so instead of like wreckage, you're gonna like kind of post up and anchor down near an island, and then you get on your dinghy and travel over to the island, which is just like a little cutscene. But then you get to the island, and it's like a 2D platformer, and you're kind of exploring around. Man. You can also like cut down your Everlight will turn into like an axe or a saw. You can chop down trees. It'll turn into like a pickaxe. You can like mine resources off of the islands and stuff, and this is where you'll meet people. You can shop for things. And I would say pretty much my only gripe so far is like I've come into a few instances where like you kind of like need to trigger an event. Like I always like to kind of poke at the edges of a game.
Yeah.
And I'll like go exploring first before I like, oh no, I needed to actually like talk to this person and like activate the event before I go to the island. So I've like had that happen a couple times, but I feel like I'm like out of that segment of the game where like that's probably not going to happen anymore.
That's good
and
to
that's
know.
Just more, and that's more on me too. I would just say, yeah, just maybe follow the path like for the first hour or two.
Right.
Because it's just going to kind of still be, and like I said, there's a lot going on in this game. There's kind of a lot to learn, and it paces it out really nicely, at least so far. But again, it seems like I'm going to get some new skills, like a double jump for my character.
Yes.
And the charm, again, I just cannot. And the music, oh my God, it's like so beautiful. Just this like calming,
nice.
Just everything about it. The sound design. I love this game. I can't wait to play more. And I'm super pumped. It was available day one on Game Pass.
That's amazing. I'm gonna I have to check that out. Like, there's
for
no
sure.
excuse.
You guys will both. We've talked about it on the podcast before a long time ago, but it really reminds me of like Battle Chef Brigade.
That's the first thing I thought of when you're talking about the different
Yes.
meals and stuff. First thing I thought
like
of.
Less of like the action puzzle element and more of like the simulation element. You know, relationship simulator almost.
Yeah,
in some ways.
And the beautiful hand-drawn graphics, like
exactly, and like so much, and like just the right amount of voice acting. Like it's just like just be like one word as like the whole sentence pops up. It's really well done.
Love it.
It's gorgeous. I love this game, and I can't wait to see how much more it opens up.
That sounds amazing.
But last week, and another game, the last game that we're going to talk about that came out during the Indie World Showcase for Nintendo Switch.
Yes, sir.
And the game that we talked about last week was a short hike. John and I raved about it.
Yes.
Randall hopped right to it and played it right away. So why don't you take the lead, although I'm sure we're all going to chime in some more on this one.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I yelled at you guys last week because I was afraid of spoilers, but... yeah, no, you guys did a good job not spoiling.
Okay, I was worried there for a second.
No, I was just being a little sensitive about it because I knew I was going to play this game, and I just didn't get around to it in time last week. And I am glad that I got around to it because I love this game. I've
been so nervous because you haven't said a word. I've been so nervous.
Oh my God. Like it hadn't
you just
occurred
said
to me
you
as
played
like,
it.
oh man, what if Randall doesn't like this game?
I know. I'm like, what kind of conversation is that going to be?
No, I will not antagonize you guys tonight. Well, not on this game anyway. A short hike is fantastic, and it's exactly what I keep screaming about, that I want short games. I want a nice contained experience, like the length of a long movie. That's all a video game needs to be to me. And finally, someone just went ahead and did it. And thank you. At 3 hours, it's great.
Yep.
It's
exactly
and it
how
doesn't
long it took
feel
me.
like it's too short. It feels like the exact length. Like
yes,
that is such like a skill to like have a complete package in that amount of time.
Yeah.
And especially to be made by like primarily one person,
right?
To have such a good instinct for that feel.
Yeah. Yeah, in a Unity engine game, which like normally that's like something to potentially scoff at, like, maybe a first effort, who knows? Like maybe it'll look like all these other Unity games, but of course it doesn't. It has that awesome DS aesthetic that we talked about last week, which I love. There's still a lot of mechanics that this game introduces to you in that short time frame that keeps you motivated. Besides your main motivation is obviously to get to the top of this mountain in your hike to the top, and you're getting these golden feathers that'll increase your capabilities to get up the
spoilers.
I know.
Yeah, we'll just get into a little bit more of this game. We still won't go into any like the story spoiler beats or anything, but we'll talk a little more mechanics this week.
Yeah, I know we were stepping around like the.
I know you guys did a great job.
I think we almost didn't even say that. I was like, you can glide in the game. I don't even think we said you can fly. I think we might have just been like, you can glide.
Yeah. No, you guys
like, just
were very
so
sweet.
I just wanted to at least say like it's not just like a run and jump platformer.
No.
The time that like the second I got a second golden feather, and I was like, oh my God, I can keep jumping.
Yeah,
that is all I want.
Real quick, did you guys buy your first golden feather or did you find it?
I bought.
I can't remember.
That's a good question, actually. I feel like I bought my first.
I feel like I bought mine too for $40 from the cabin or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think in typical me fashion, I was poking at the nooks and crannies, and I like soared down and found one on top of like a rock that I could get to, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I like missed the tutorial, although it's instantly, you just know how to do it. It's just like keep pressing the jump button.
Yeah, if you have experience with video games at all, really, this is, And I love that too. It doesn't need to have a complicated control scheme to like show you everything that this game is about and all the little mechanics that are there, all the little hidden items that you can go back for later, which is, I'm sure, what you guys were talking about that you alluded to also. So that's super cool too, right? Like you have an excuse to go back to this game and experience more of it on your own time. And this whole game lets you play it on your own time for the most part, which I just love. I love how laid back it is. It's
so laid back.
I had a great time. Great time.
It's like, it was the perfect like weekend relaxation.
Yes.
Like when it first came out, or not when it first came out, but when I grabbed it from the Itch.io bundle and downloaded, I played maybe like the first 5 minutes or so, and I was just like, and I knew that it was supposed to be like a short-ish game. I didn't know like 3 hours, but I was like, this seems like the game that I can probably sit down in 1 or 2 sittings and finish. And I was just like, I was playing a bunch of other things at the time, and it was just one I knew. I was like, I know I'm going to sit down, and I'm glad I did just do it in one sitting, and just play it straight through. Like, it was just such a cohesive, wonderful, relaxing weekend experience. It was so great. A much needed relaxing experience, to be honest.
Yeah, I would absolutely recommend like setting aside when you play this game, if you're playing it for the first time, to like just set aside a few hours so that you can like experience it as much as you want. Because like you might just want to play through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I could gush about this game forever, but just to basically sum it up, I loved it. I wish more games were short like this because it's preferable to me and my lifestyle these days to have a game that's 2 or 3 hours and then I'm good. And I can come back if I want to, and that's great too. But I loved my time with a short hike.
Nice.
Yeah, and even the replayability of it, like to me, I personally, I think I mentioned this last week too, but I really feel like this is a game not only that I'll explore all the nooks and crannies, but I probably will just come back and play it because it is that short experience.
That's fair.
That's one of the reasons I go back to like stuff like Super Mario World. Not that it's like a 3 hour on the dot, but like I know it so well. I can just kind of play it. It's like comfort food,
Totally.
And this game, like it definitely with that laid back vibe, like just fits that bill 100%.
Love it.
Well, one more game I wanted to talk about, and one more game that I'm going to gush about to the nth degree, because I am obsessed with New Super Lucky's Tale, which they just also once again added to Xbox Game Pass. They've had the original version, which I think we talked about the demo for New Super Lucky's Tale when it was first released on Switch. I think all of us checked it out, if I'm not mistaken, and we were all pretty into it.
Yep.
And I've played some other 3D platformers, indie 3D platformers. I think I talked a little bit about A Hat in Time on the podcast before as well, which that one, has been a little mixed bag. Like I've loved some of the levels. Some of them have been kind of like these collect-a-thon, like a little bit. They're kind of lacking a sense of cohesiveness, in my opinion.
That one was supposed to be more like a 64 throwback platformer type of deal anyway,
Yeah, but I feel like this one is going for that as well.
Kinda,
but I just feel like it nails it. Like I truly, I know I am Mr. Hyperbole all the time, but I will say, and I'm just going to say it, this is easily one of, if not the best 3D platformers I've ever played. I'm only about halfway through the game. And there's 6 worlds, it seems. I just finished the 3rd world earlier today.
Nice.
And like the levels, all of the worlds are broken up into like about, I would guess like 6, 7, 8 levels or so. That each have, every level has exactly 4 challenges. Like there's no guessing game. You spell out, kind of like in Donkey Kong style, you spell out lucky by collecting those throughout each level. And that gives you like a clover page, which is like your, star in Mario. Essentially. And again, there's 4 of those on each. There's always like a secret hidden one, the one that you get for beating the level, the one you get for spelling out lucky, and then one that you get for collecting 300 coins in a level. And that's not like it's not in the sense of like there's usually there's levels I get like 450 coins. Like, so if you're like exploring the levels, you're usually going to get way more than that. But there are also going to be like some 2D side-scrolling levels, and some of those are auto-running levels, which normally I'm not totally into. Those are some of my favorite levels in the game so far.
Nice.
Like, they're just like super like just really incredibly tightly designed. Like just it feels like, you know, you just feel like you're just nailing. You feel like you're speed running the game, you know, and you kind of have to. There's no choice. You have to run at that pace. And that you just have these great mechanics of like you can double jump, you have your tail whip, you play as this fox, and you can also burrow under the ground, but only certain types of ground. So like if you're, you know, on grass, you can burrow underneath that, but if it's like a stone path, you'll automatically kind of jump out of the ground and be above ground. But you'll have to like utilize that to like get underneath certain enemies that have like a protective shell over them, like a beetle or something, and like attack them from beneath, and then, you know, pop up and jump on top of them. And like the boss battles have been really cool. They have like these like bullet hell almost like projectile
those are difficult,
dodging
man.
sections. Yeah, they're really hard. Like this game is not a cakewalk.
No.
I mean, I'm collecting a bunch of lives, but it's not a cakewalk. And yeah, Randall, I know you've watched Tina play some of this, and again, you've played the demo. But what have you thought just of your impressions of like seeing it in action a little bit?
Yeah, I was extremely impressed by the demo, and I like immediately went out and bought the game on Switch physically, because I'm like, yeah, this is one we have to have. And then Tina was really into watching it. She played a lot of the demo too, and was like, yeah, let's get this. And so she started playing it at that point, and yeah, she was into it for a while. Although this game is not easy, like we kind of mentioned.
No.
Like the difficulty hits you pretty quickly after a few levels, and that's kind of what we encountered too. And I think something else came out pretty quickly after, so we didn't keep going with it much after that. But I really liked like playing it and watching it. There's nothing against this game, and I can, now that you're talking about it again, I'm like, oh man, I have to get back to it. Like, I don't even think we saw any one of the side-scrolling auto-runner levels, so I kind of want to check that out, too.
Yeah, dude, you got it. Because like and even like the world design, like the first world is just kind of, you know, it's sort of basic, but then like the second world is like this totally new setting. It's called like Veggie World, and you're like, I don't know, the world is like populated with these worms and stuff that are like the characters. It's got a pretty good writing. Like it's not amazing, but it's like decent sense of humor.
Yeah.
And then the third world, there's like these yetis that are wrestlers. Like one of the levels was called the Ladder Match of the Mind, and I was just like, all right, I just know I love this game.
Nice.
And it's incredible. The boss battles are amazing. I could just gush on and on and on. And I know we mentioned this when we talked about the demo, but it's just so awesome that like a developer saw the potential in the game that maybe didn't get quite, because the original release of Super Lucky's Tale just got kind of like a middling, you know, it just seemed like people were like, oh, here's another like kind of 3D retro, you know, 64 era throwback game. That if you're into these, it's kind of fun. And like I said, in my personal opinion, like I know I get super excited and stuff, but there's even these little levels that are like puzzle based, and like they're just like little mini puzzle challenges like scattered throughout the overworld. You just kind of dive into like these foxholes, and like there'll be like a puzzle challenge down there that are like all about moving these statues that kind of you have to use them to block one another and get them to certain places. Like really cool stuff. Every element of this game, like the only gripe I would have is that like some of the like if you're like retrying something or loading a checkpoint, it always like goes back to a loading screen. Yeah, that usually doesn't take that long, but it's just a little tedious, I guess, like, or noticeable when you're just like, let me reset that puzzle, and it like actually reloads and plays a short cutscene. You're like, come on. Yeah, but it's a small gripe, because again, I didn't finish this sentence before, but it's one of the best 3D platformers I've ever played. I'm never going to take that back. I love this game, and I'm going to play it all the way through, and I'll share any thoughts if anything changes.
Yeah, but, Kevin, I want to challenge you. Like, once you beat this game, I want you to rank it amongst the 3D platformers that are on that level for you. I'm curious.
Okay. I don't even know what would be at the top. Like Super Mario Galaxy is always
that's
like
what
my
I would
go-to of number one. Yeah, the first Galaxy game. But this one gives it a run for the money, man. Right. It is awesome. I absolutely love it.
Nice.
But I think we can wrap up. We've been talking games long enough for tonight. I think we can wrap it up there. And as always, you can find us online at pursuingpixels.com. We're on Discord if you want to chat with us at all. We're on YouTube, Instagram. We have links at the bottom of the episode description along with timestamps and all that stuff. But we'll catch you next week. And until then, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, it was fine, and then it wasn't fine today. It's one of those
gotcha
things.
Okay. Well, for now it's working okay. So let's. I forget exactly where we left off, but
just doing some
Just gushing about short hike.
just gushing about a short
Gooshing.
hike. Yeah.
We're gooshing.
We gooshin'.
Gross.
That does sound
I
kind of
quit.
gross.
Damn it.